Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and may be joining us. We welcome you. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Enterprises, and I'm very grateful that you have joined us today for today's webinar. Our topic today, of course, is maximize your ServiceMax implementation with a little magic. We're pleased to have joining us today Susan Tonkin with ServiceMax, Bobby Culbertson with Westmor and Superior Industries, and Ted Brennan with Magic Software. Today's webinar is being brought to you by Magic Software. We are a global provider of application development and integration solutions. Many of you know us for a long time. Some of you may be new to Magic. Magic is a publicly traded company, traded under the ticker symbol MGIC. We reported 2015 revenues of $176 million, have more than 1,000 employees worldwide with offices, 24 offices, 6 countries, and more than 50, customers in more than 50 countries, and some 3,500 global partners with millions of users worldwide. With Magic Software, of course, we'll be pleased to be focusing on the integration topic today to ServiceMax, and the platform that we provide in that regard is Magic XPI Integration Platform, which our experts will be sharing with us today. But first, we wanted to really make sure that we focus on the objective, the business objective, and the business benefits that are possible through field service management and automation. And so we're going to turn it over at this time to Susan Tonkin, allow her to introduce herself and her company, and then provide some insight into today's topic. So with that brief introduction, Susan, I'm going to now make you the presenter, which involves me clicking on a few buttons here as I speak. So here we go. You should now be the presenter, and you can share your presentation and begin sharing with us today. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, just figured out how to unmute myself, so thank you. And good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Susan Tonkin. I'm the Product Marketing Manager with ServiceMax. And I'm excited to be sharing with you a little bit about ServiceMax and our customers and our customer results, and kicking off the presentation today. So let me go ahead with my next slide here. So as Glenn mentioned, kind of the business benefit and the reason why we're looking at field service is kind of where we wanted to kick off. So many organizations, and this data is particular to manufacturing companies, but it's not just manufacturing companies that are seeing this trend, are really seeing service as a growth engine for their businesses. So a great way to boost top-line revenue, not just a cost center, hey, we want to save some money, let's implement some technology for field service, but the way that we're going to grow our business is by focusing on service, by focusing on field service, and have a higher growth rate than our equipment sales at manufacturing companies. And we're seeing this in non-manufacturers as well, especially companies where service revenue is the bulk of their company revenue. So definitely a trend that organizations are not just looking at cost savings, but looking at growth in general. So we have about 400 customers worldwide that ServiceMax works with for field service management, and we survey those customers just about annually. And in our most recent survey, we saw fantastic results from our customers in terms of great business benefits that they're seeing in their organizations. So things like a 26% increase. Yes?
Susan, I'm sorry, briefly, your slides are not advancing for us, so I think maybe you need to choose share my screen.
Your desktop instead? Okay, let me see.
Your desktop, yeah.
Let me get back to the panel here. Hold on just a moment. Sorry about that.
No worries. I just didn't want you to get too far without having your slides advanced.
Okay, let me know if you now see the slides, and it says the field service effect.
It absolutely does. Thank you, Susan, and apologize
Awesome.
for that.
Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so these stats that you now see on the screen are the results from our customer survey in terms of the business benefits that they've been able to see from implementing field service technology. So as I mentioned earlier, top-line revenue growth has been a real driver in looking at field service technology and making changes in that area and wanting to deliver really flawless field service. Our customers on average see a 22% increase in service revenue. So hopefully that sounds compelling to you. I know I would take a 22% increase in revenue. And then a number of other great benefits as well across the organization. So increases in productivity, especially from putting mobile devices in the hands of your technicians. Increase in first-time fix rates so that you save a tremendous amount of money not having to make a second visit to a customer to fix their problem and keep them happy. And then decreases in average time to repair. We see customer satisfaction increases. So great top line and bottom line business benefits and cost savings from implementing field service. So a little bit about ServiceMax as a company. I mentioned before we have about 400 customers across the globe. We are also rated as a Gartner leader in the field service management space. So just about annually, Gartner does their Magic Quadrant for field service management. The last one was in December of 2014. We were rated a leader in the space, and there'll be a new one coming out this fall as well. And we've always been viewed as a key visionary in the space, and being at the very far right side on our vision for field service and driving the technology changes in the space and harnessing the power of things like mobility and IoT, and so we're well valued by the analyst community due to our customers' success in the market. So that's an important point to note. And then now on the screen you see kind of the type of capabilities we offer. So when a lot of people think of field service, they might think of the scheduling of technicians to get out to customer sites to fix equipment. But that's just one small piece of what we offer at ServiceMax, and I think that's one of the reasons why integration is so important and working with partners like Magic is so important, because our solution is very broad. It encompasses scheduling, but it also encompasses things like returns management and depot repair. You're touching inventory potentially. You're touching warranty management, contract management, invoicing. Once you've delivered the service, you want to be able to bill for it, and that usually requires an integration to the ERP. Trunk stock management, again, touching inventory. So a very broad set of capabilities that we can deliver for field service, which often links into many of your back office systems as well. So a really holistic approach to managing field service. And we are built, excuse me, 100% native to the Salesforce App Cloud. So that we're built on a really proven platform, and we've been able to devote 100% of our capabilities, our research and development budget, our focus on the field service management industry and problems and challenges, and we leave the platform to Salesforce, which they do a great job of. We're actually the #3 ISV for Salesforce, so a tremendous amount of customers using the solution as an integrated part of their CRM experience. And they do great work on the platform side to ensure our scalability, our performance, our security, and we focus on the field service capabilities. So let me just go into a tiny bit more detail very quickly about our field service management platform. The areas that we cover, we call them the 4 Ps. They're the orange circles that you see there. That go across all those different areas of field service that I talked about earlier. Underlying that, we really have an incredible platform that's built on the Salesforce platform and extends that Salesforce platform for some really critical areas of capability that are specific to field service. So you'll see those across the bottom. Things like an optimization engine, an entitlements engine so that you know when you need to bill for service and when you don't need to bill for service, a mobile and sync engine, a process engine, as well as a reporting engine. All of those are really critical to a modern field service application that's really delivering all the capabilities you need to be successful with your customers. And then extending that solution is a third-party ecosystem as well. So companies like Magic, companies that provide extended pieces of the solution that we don't directly provide, a forms company or a quoting CPQ company that are able to extend our solution and offer pieces that make the field service platform even more successful. So let me talk in very high level about a couple of the key areas that are exciting for ServiceMax, and then I will turn it over. Reporting and performance metrics are incredibly important to us and being able to access the data that's part of field service. So with our most recent release, our Spring 16 release, we introduced this service performance metrics solution, which really lists the and provides dashboards and reporting for the top 8 field service metrics that are important to businesses. So these are pre-built. You don't have to come up with them yourselves or do a lot of services to be able to build the reports you need. You can build the reports you need if you want to do additional things, but we have taken the top 8 key field service metrics, things like first time fix rate, things like mean time to repair, mean time to service, attach rates, and we have pre-built those dashboards in a very flexible manner that you can configure them and roll them out to your organization so you get tremendous insight into the value of your field service efforts and can really run your business on these metrics. I also wanted to mention connected field service. We were the first to market with a joint connected field service solution that combines a world-class field service application, which is ServiceMax, with the IoT connectivity so that you can have the machine itself be reporting that there's a problem before your customer even calls you up and says, hey, there's an issue. We're the first to market with that with a productized integration with PTC, and we work with a number of the other IoT providers in this space as well, companies like GE or ThingLogix or Software AG, where we're able to connect to their IoT platforms and be able to take machine data directly into the field service process and auto-generate work orders based on that data. And then last but not least, in terms of functionality areas, the field service process engine I just wanted to mention as a key differentiator for ServiceMax. We have an incredibly flexible solution underpinning our field service processes so that you can replicate your field service process in the software rather than being forced to adopt your workflow to the software when you deploy it. So UX designer, mobility framework, a business process designer, drag and drop workflow engine, all of these are there to be able to reflect your field service processes and the variations that you have in your business or in your industry very, very easily. Configure those once and then deploy those anywhere, even to the mobile devices that you'll be using. So the online experience is very similar to the mobile experience that you'd have on a tablet or a smartphone, and it's also very similar to the offline experience that you get with those mobile applications as well, so that you don't have to have connectivity, but you're still being able to complete work orders and look up parts pricing and do all the detailed things that you need to do when you're on site with a customer with one way to configure all of those different interfaces. So a lot of power underlying our process engine. So here's just a slide that mentions the customers that we work with. Lots of manufacturers, med device manufacturers, industrial manufacturers, but a number of different industries as well. So, food and beverage and with Coca-Cola Enterprises, telecom with Sky Italia, oil and gas, Westmor Industries is an example in that area. So lots of different industries that we work with, lots of different companies who are global, and lots of different regions that we provide sales and service and have people on the ground in country across Western Europe, across Asia, so we have a lot of capability to address the needs of global customers. And that is it for my portion. And I will be on for questions later on as well, but let me go ahead and turn it over. Glenn, would you like me to?
I lost audio there. This is Bobby Culbertson talking. Is Glenn, are you there? Okay, well, I'm assuming that I've got the control here, so I would like some feedback. Which screen do people see that is showing right now? I'm trying to figure that out. I'm not getting any feedback from Glenn or...
Bobby, I see a slide that has your name on it.
Is it the main slide or is it the like the presentation?
I do see in presentation mode, actually. Yeah.
In presentation mode. Okay.
Sorry, the presenter mode. Yeah.
Presenter mode. Okay. How about now?
Now it's in full screen. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Bobby Culbertson. I am a developer with Westmor and Superior Industries. I've been doing it for a little over 4 years. Started in web development, began in J.D. Edwards a little bit after that, about a couple of years. Been doing Salesforce development for a couple of years, and I became certified in January. And I want to tell you guys a little bit about our experience with ServiceMax and with Magic integration. So quickly, just about who we are. Westmor is America's largest fueling and equipment service provider in Morris, Minnesota. Morris, Minnesota is about 3 hours west of the Twin Cities. It's about 40 miles just off the North Dakota-South Dakota border. Really small town, but we have a couple major manufacturers here. And we build and service gas stations, aviation refuelers, blending skids, plants, fueling tanks and trucks. We do all that. So we have roughly about 40 technicians across 4 teams throughout the United States. And so a lot of our focus when it came to field service and our field service story is in our company for Westmor. We just expanded to include Superior Industries, which is our parent company, and they design, actually, they do something completely different. They design and manufacture conveying, washing, crushing equipment, kind of the stuff you would see maybe at a port where you need to convey different aggregates and things like that, different mining equipment. So a completely different product. We have about 8 to 12 technicians in that arena that's getting expanded. So let me tell you a little bit about our story. And Westmor, like I said, we service those convenience stores. So we have, you know, when grandma runs over a gas station pump, they give us a call to help service that. So we go all throughout the Midwest. And our old method before we had a field service solution was a lot of paper, as you can probably imagine, a lot of yellow folders passed around between departments, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of missed information, and a lot of dual information. So we would create our cases and work orders in Salesforce, but we would also manually create those also in our back-end legacy system, Enterprise One, for J.D. Edwards. So we would create sales orders and work orders in there, redo our routings, change our statuses, input parts, all those kind of things. So if we had any updates, we needed to do them in both systems. We had manual time entries in both systems. We had paper. You can imagine a lot of the difficulties if you're there or have been there. A lot of manual entry, a lot of dual entry, a lot of just essentially time wasted by our dispatching team internally. with our inefficient field service solution. And with Superior, they have techs that go all around the world, and so they kind of presented some a little bit of different problems where they communication was kind of poor, and being able to get information readily wherever they're at. If they're in a mine in the middle of Saudi Arabia, they need to be able to get their information or have it readily available for them. So also in our back-end system, the module they were using in E1 was really clunky and almost impossible to get the data that they wanted to get out of it very easily. Also had time entries were on paper, and like I said, calling back and forth to corporate for lots of information, and almost impossible for them to track cost per case. So we had certainly some challenges with our field service solution, and when we were evaluating initially with Westmor, what do we want to do with field service, how do we want to do it, one of our requirements was that it had to be on the Salesforce platform based on our already existing presence in Salesforce, and because we also wanted it to be mobile, we wanted it to be readily accessible, all those kind of things. So we judged a lot of different products, and in the end we came to ServiceMax. Certainly a leader. We have a fantastic relationship with ServiceMax. We love their product. We love the ability to go mobile with the iPad. We love the dispatching console that our individuals use, but we still had an integration issue. So having another solution or another software product meant that we were going to have data in another spot. So we have some integration challenges. We needed to connect to E1. So at the time, if you're familiar with E1, there are business services that you could use, having a web service server to be able to connect back and forth, but it was a little bit clunky, and we didn't have maybe necessarily the time to be able to build out all of those web services if we needed to. AIS is just coming on board, application information services. It's just kind of coming on board, but at the time we were doing this project in 2013, it didn't exist. We have real-time versus batch integration. So when our individuals create a sales order, or excuse me, create a case in Salesforce, we wanted it immediately to create a sales order and work order in E1. We also have different batch integration challenges. So if, for example, we want to grab time from their timesheets once a day, or we want to check for if things have shipped twice a day. Excuse me. Error capturing and notifications, right? So if someone clicks on a button in Salesforce but an error happens in E1, what do we do with that? How do we present that to the user? Those different types of things. And E1 presents its own challenge with the use of business functions, not just SQL statements. So a lot of the things within our legacy system are integrated at a very, very, very deep level. If I perform one task, it branches out into a lot of different tables or a lot of different functions. It can have a lot of tentacles, and it's not very easy to find out how far-reaching a lot of those things are. And given that the sales order module is the most expansive of them all, it would be dangerous for us to just make SQL statements inserting a record, right? So we needed to use the built-in business functions that E1 presents in order to know we were doing the data correctly. So that was some of our integration challenges. And then, like I said, when we finally made a decision, we felt that going with ServiceMax and having Magic in the middle to integrate the two would satisfy those challenges, right? We could create sales order, work orders, add parts, and do payroll. So to get to it here, I'd like to show you a little bit of what our Magic solution looks like. So let me bring that up. Can everyone see my new screen, my Magic kind of flow here?
Looks good.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Okay. So what I'm showing you here is the Magic Development Console, or the Studio is what they call it. This is the XBI Studio. And what I'm just going to show you a little bit about the product is our design of actually creating a sales order and work order in E1. So in here, what's beautiful one thing that I really like about the studio and designing with Magic is the drag and drop visual flow that you see with the logic. I'm not writing lines of code. What I'm doing is I'm dragging and dropping components in a logical flow that essentially represents my code. So if once a individual creates a case in ServiceMax and changes it to a work order, this flow gets triggered by a call, which is an HTTP triggering component. So you can either schedule when you want flows to run, or they can be triggered live by an event. This event is a REST call event from Salesforce that calls our server, and that's what begins this flow. So we go out to JD Edwards, and we make sure that we have a connection to JD Edwards and get our audit information, like what's your computer name and those type of things. And then we go back out to Salesforce and go get those new work orders that were just created. And then we are going to loop on each one of those work orders and create the necessary information in E1. So everything is presented in this top-to-down flow that's a visual with a drag and drop of components. Anything that branches off is essentially what you would consider an if-else statement. So I have this blue conditional above in this section, and the conditional statement says if my work order XML or my response coming back from Salesforce is not blank, then continue going. So if the conditional statement is true, it continues down the flow. If it's not true, it branches off and goes down that flow. So that's how you would build an if-else statement in your visual flow or visual representation of your code. So just getting into it a little bit, we have our JDE components. JDE components show the business function that you want to use and leverage. And if we expand it, these are all of the available fields within the business function that I can call and pass information to. I'll show you some more business functions that have information on the left and on the right. But we also have a sales order, or excuse me, a Salesforce component that tells me what object I'm grabbing. In this case, it's the ServiceMax service order or their work orders. And in here, I can build a where statement, a SOQL where statement clause that goes out and says which work orders do I want to go grab, what conditional statements are there in. So in SOQL wherever I process this is false, do I already have a sales order, do I already have a work order, those kind of things. So here's where you could put your SOQL, if you're familiar with that with Salesforce coding, your SOQL where clause in order to grab which orders are in Salesforce. And the responses come back in XML, so I can grab them here and loop on each one. And what's called, this is one of the most common components, is called the data mapper. And in the data mapper, I would say, what is my source, which is the XML I grabbed back from Salesforce, and then what's my destination? I'm going to loop on each one in a different flow and process each case. So here, what's a common technique is to take your XML statement that comes back and take key fields that you want from it and assign them to variables to be used. So every time it loops on this XML record, where in every row record that comes back, I want to grab an ID, I want to grab maybe, let's see what else we have, order types, I want to grab a whole bunch of other things too on the bottom here. I want to grab my billing information, I want to grab my branch, I want to grab my shipped to, my sold to, all those type of things, and then what I do is I process them in variables here on the right side. So my left is my source, my right is my destination. So that's called the data mapper. Very, very critical component in any Magic flow, taking information from a source and putting it into a destination. So in order for us to build our sales order, we first get the new work orders that are in Salesforce, built on the ServiceMax platform. So I built a work order here. So this would be a typical work order that you would see in ServiceMax. We have our account information, we have billing information, we have sales order information, all those kind of fun things. This is a brand new work order in our test environment that we would process here. So we would grab it, we would loop on it, and since I'm actually running 3 different companies within the ServiceMax platform, I figure out which company I'm grabbing first by their identification number and their branch, and then I have different preset variables that go through the same process that change depending upon the company. Maybe I use a different version of the sales order application in E1, so I put the version number in there. Maybe instead of changing the work order to a status 20, I change it to a status 30, so I put that in its company-specific information. And that's what would get set here in a variable flow data configurator. So I would tell it which type of variable name it is, what's the data type, and what expression do I want it to be. And that's different for each of the companies. And then what's cool is I can process the exact same flow for each one of the companies in order to create the sales order without having to write the same code 3 different times. So that's really, really convenient that I can do something like that within here in Magic. So looping on each one, if you're any familiar at all with E1 and its back end, the business functions, the general business function you would call it are your sales order begin, your sales order edit line, and your sales order end business functions. And I can get tax information, I bring it in, and then we call our sales order begin doc. And to show here, I'm taking that case/work order information XML that I grabbed, and I'm looping from that and passing in information into my begin doc business function. So here on each business function you can open up, you can put in a calculated value, which is a variable, or you can put in a static number there or whatever you need. Lots of flexibility I like in what you can do with adding information into your business functions. I can either take data from my source, or if I already pre-existingly know what I need to put there, I can put those values in. Pretty easy to do. And since it's visual, it's pretty logical on how it's going to be processed. And then with each begin doc, or excuse me, each business function that comes back, I parse through its response, making sure there's no errors. If there are errors, I can go through and log the responses and invoke an error flow. So that's this conditional coming back into play again, our if branching. So we have our conditional statement. If my response is greater than 1, great, keep going. If not, let's begin our error flow. Something probably happened that we'll need to trigger. And the way we do errors, what's great also in Magic is that you can call an email component, and I do so here. So I have my own error handling flow that grabs, depending upon which element called it, which flow I have in the back, whether it was the payroll, mileage and subsistence, or creating sales orders, it will send a different email to a different team with different information, and it can have information from the actual content that I was trying to parse and bring in. I can bring in those same variables here and pass the information along to the end user saying, hey, this work order in E1 failed, and this is the actual link in ServiceMax that you can go click on and go find out what went wrong. So really easy to use. You can display a lot of information to the user. So that's how we would create a sales orders and work orders here. We also do payroll, which is another unique kind of thing that we do. Let me get to my payroll. Here we go. What we do is we grab all of our time entries there in our ServiceMax module, and we loop on each time entry. And I have company-specific logic again for either whether it's a Westmor company payroll or a Superior company payroll. And then we have actually stored procedures in SQL that know how to process all of the punches for payroll. And in ServiceMax or in Magic, that's not a problem in order to call a specific stored procedure. You can still do that. So we have our variables on the left coming from our time clock, and then we have stored procedures on the right. And this is an example of a stored procedure. Since we're already connected to the database definition, we can say execute this stored procedure, and here are all the variables that it needs in order to process. And that's what we would do mapping our variables here. We have our variables on our left as our source that we grab from the data from ServiceMax, and we're passing it into our variables on the right for our stored procedure. Again, using this makes it very easy because it's visual. I can drag my connections, I can edit my connections, I can manually make different connections with static data. It's very easy to use. So those are a couple of the things that we do. As you can see, this one kind of gets pretty big in conditional statements. I haven't seen anybody do something that wide before, but we're successfully able to, in real time, create sales orders and work orders in E1 and bring that data back into ServiceMax. So at the very end, after everything has been processed, we do an update statement in Salesforce. Right here we say which object do we want to update, and then using our mapper again, we can specify what data and what fields are we activating. So I can update and say, yep, this is the sales order number that we grabbed and we're bringing back, and this is the work order number that we grabbed in E1 and we're bringing back, and it'll do an update statement into Salesforce and ServiceMax. So that's about what we do. The benefits of it, we have cut down on dispatching time and duplicate entry. We have increased user or technician utilization, because they're not doing so much paperwork in the hotel. They're actually now doing things on site in real time using the ServiceMax application, and with the integration that we have, they can do things on site and we can get the information today and know what the techs were doing, what parts were being used, and it can be already integrated into E1 and speed up the process for billing. People are not doing jobs that they shouldn't really be doing. They're still more specialized. So dispatchers aren't fishing down parts. They're dispatching work orders like they should be and receiving phone calls. Our billing team is not trying to figure out everything that the technician did through chicken scratch on a piece of paper and trying to get an interpretation from it. Everything is written down nicely in the ServiceMax application. They can go see all of the data that they need and be able to process our work orders very efficiently. We went from a 7-day turnaround from work order completion to work order build to a 1-day turnout for our billing cycle within, I think, 6 months. So with having ServiceMax as a fantastic application in order to do our field service work and being able to integrate E1 using the Magic software platform has really expanded our capabilities in our field service, where we're just kind of alive to now being the leader in our area. So with that, I'll turn it over to Glenn and Ted.
Great, thank you very much, Bobby. Fantastic presentation, really appreciate it. And we're now going to make Ted the presenter so that he can maybe just answer the question of, you know, what else can we connect ServiceMax to? We saw great examples here with J.D. Edwards and some of the other things. What other kinds of integration can we accomplish? So I see your screen, Ted, so I'm going to ask you to please take it away.
Okay, well, hopefully everybody can hear me too, because now that I'm unmuted. Glenn, can people hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So this is the integration platform, and to kind of reiterate what my colleagues went over, so we can integrate with multiple different applications simultaneously. So theoretically, if you have you know, something like ServiceMax where you're creating things like work orders, you know, one of the things we can do that once we have the work order or the account or contact information, we can pass that back and forth between multiple applications. So here I'm passing accounts to JDE, but you know, theoretically, if you have an ERP or a project lifecycle management system or even an e-commerce application, you know, once we have the information that we need, we can pass it to multiple different places. And we do it through these things called components. So to kind of build on what my esteemed colleague talked about earlier, not only do these components come with connectivity to these various applications, but they also come with the appropriate protocols. So whether we're talking about JDE or ServiceMax or Salesforce, you know, whenever we integrate with another application, we say, hey, we want to integrate with your application. We'll just say, all right, well, these are the protocols you need to follow. So we come with those built-in protocols already. And the components are really two different kinds. Some are application specific, so like we talked about, we have a Salesforce and a ServiceMax specific component, and you know, that's a Force.com compliant component, and it's you know, authorized by Salesforce and ServiceMax, and same thing with JDE. So these are application specific, but if we have an opportunity to integrate with something we don't have a pre-built connector for, well, we have some more generic ones too. So we have a web services connector that allows us to consume a WSDL from an application, and all the methods and properties that come with those web services will be automatically populated. We have a data mapper connection. This is an ODBC compliant connector that allows us to connect and do queries and elaborate store procedures and things like that with other applications. We have an HTTP connector that allows us to build and consume our own web services. We can load from a flat file. So the general idea behind XPI is that we can integrate with any application and pass that data to any other application in a drag and drop code-free connectivity that you saw before. One of the things I want to emphasize too is all of our connectors do schema discovery, and so when people come to us, whether it's ServiceMax or JDE or something else, and they say, you know, Ted, we have this implemented a while. We've done a lot of custom index fields. We got a custom data points, and so that's not a problem because we do a schema discovery back to that environment. So every time here, I'm doing a query against the account object in ServiceMax, but I've hidden this ellipsis here. This will go back and do a read back to that environment, and it'll say, give me whatever you have. So as you can see, I not only have the some of the built-in ones, but I get some custom ones too. So whether it's a work order or something to that effect, I'll be able to get those methods and properties too. And like we talked about too, other applications for JDE to work with those as well. So here I'm doing I have connectivity to the various business functions within JDE, and I can get those as well. So here I'm doing an address book master lookup, but when I do this, this will give me all the appropriate business functions that I need to use in JDE or anything else. So whether it's a custom index field or a custom data point that you're looking for, we're able to get all of that and utilize that, the power of that for your integration. So an important part of our solution I want to talk about too is monitoring the integration as well. So, once we've built all our integrations, an important part about this is going to be monitoring this as well. And for that, we have our monitoring tool over here. So when I go into this, this is actually the only part where an administrator needs to see, and this will tell me everything that's going on with that particular integration. So here, we flex all this to good, the bad, and the ugly. So we can see everything that's going on within a particular integration. We can see how many threads are being used. We can see how long it takes to execute a specific flow, and like my esteemed colleague talked about, if there's an application-specific error message, we can actually pass that here as well. So if ServiceMax or your ERP or your e-commerce application, obviously we have our own error handling, but if there's a specific error you're trying to capture, we can pass that here too. And this is really the only place an administrator ever needs to be, okay? And also, our technology utilizes something called an in-memory data grid for the integration. So this really speeds up the integration time. So typically, in a point-to-point integration, you have a database call that's going, from application to another directly. That can be kind of slow. So what we do is we utilize the in-memory data grid, which allows us to temporarily expand an internal server's RAM for the purposes of doing the integration. We can pass a significant amount of data back and forth, and it doesn't store it permanently. It stores it in variables for the time of the integration, and then it passes it and then disposes the variables once the integration's done. So it really speeds up your integration time, and it also comes with built-in active-active clustering. So in production, this runs as a small service in the background. Doesn't even need to be a Windows machine. What we do is we utilize that fact to deploy to 2 or more servers, typically in production. So it has failover capabilities. So if one server goes down, the other server will go ahead and pick up the slack. Okay, so Glenn, I think we're ready for questions now.
Great, thank you very much, Ted, and thanks again to Bobby and Susan. We invite you all to enter your questions into the question box or the chat box, and just to get things started, I'll have a question for you, Ted. What would be involved in making this work with J.D. Edwards World on IBMI?
Okay, well, we have a couple of different ways we handle that. Here, I'll show you an integration we did with J.D. Edwards Enterprise One and IBM I. So we have a pre-built connector for JD Edwards Enterprise, JD Edwards World, and I can kind of show you, this is an integration we did between Salesforce and JDE, so kind of show you how we can simultaneously go to several systems. Here I have a flow going to JDE E1 and JD Edwards World. Well, we combine our JD Edwards World connector with the System IMI connector, and the System IMI connector allows us to manipulate the AS400 environment where we can call an RPC and then pass the data back and forth to JDE. So we can do some pretty elaborate calculations with our System I connector in conjunction with our JD Edwards World. We've actually bundled these together now. So if you use the JD Edwards World connector, you get the System IMI connector as well.
Okay, great, thanks. Looking for any other questions that might be coming in. Looks like we had a question about the monitor. Looks like it says, what about project monitoring? How do I know that my projects are running properly?
Well, a couple different ways we would handle that. Typically, if something, the way we do our error handling is that in our flow, if something goes wrong, we can send an email or a message directly to the monitor. We can have a message here that sends it directly to message to a monitor, or an email directly to an administrator. But if you have an error somewhere in this monitor, there's a big, bright, ugly red flow here. So that's typically how you would know that.
All right, great, thank you. Just waiting to see if there's any other questions here. Ah, here's something. Oh, that wasn't a question, sorry. Well, that looks like all of the questions. I really appreciate each of the panelists today. Susan Tonkin from ServiceMax, Bobby Culbertson from Superior Industries Westmor, and also Ted Brennan from Magic Software. If there are no other comments from the panelists, we'll thank each of you for joining us and ask that you have a great day and join us again on another future Magic Software webinar. Thank you.